Welcome, guys, to another episode of Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. Of course, I'm your host, JJ Kitchen. Again, guys, honestly, it's so good to be back. I've been so busy with work and everything going on in just in my personal life. It's good to be back. It's been a couple weeks since we actually had a recording here that dropped. And it's kind of funny. It didn't take a couple weeks or 2 or 3 weeks. It only took, a couple days for the fireworks to start up, especially from this past weekend and the previous weekend as well, as Pitt adds 5 players that we know so far, with 5 that still need to go to announce. Pitt added 10 commitments. We know 5 so far, which is incredible when you look at the feat in general, what that means for back-to-back weekends. Pat Narduzzi and the Pitt football staff closing on these guys when they hit the campus. That is the epitome of what really June has been. And it's kind of funny, even before I get into that, guys, if you could do me a huge favor, subscribe down below. Always forget to mention this. Subscribe down below, like the video, comment. I love seeing your guys' comments, engaging with you guys, answering questions. We'll be doing a live again soon. I got a player coming on here very soon. Again, can't thank you guys enough for your support. Please subscribe to Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. But as I was saying, this has been the hallmark of what Pat Narduzzi has been since he's been at Pitt. It was kind of funny. About a couple weeks ago, someone asked me, especially on Twitter, what did I think? Did I think June was going to be a big month in terms of commitments? What would Pitt land? And at that point, Pitt already had 11 commitments. In my opinion, I thought, we'll see maybe 3 or 4, depending upon they save room for the transfer portal. What are they going to do with that? Potentially adding more guys this year, but also next year. Boy, was I wrong. Talk about absolutely just upending and what back-to-back weekends look like. Now Pitt's sitting at officially, technically 21 commitments. 5 have announced so far. We're still waiting for the other 5. But today, I'm going to give you my thoughts and ideas on what I think of each player of the 5 that have committed so far. Guys, and I'm going to get towards the end, why this will be Pat Narduzzi's best recruiting class so far at Pitt. But let's get into it. Got notes on each one of these guys. The first one that I want to talk about, and I think that people don't realize how good he is, and I'm going to go over a number of things here, but Chazin Johnson, cornerback, 6'1", 180 pounds, out of Seminole, at Seminole High School in Sanford, Florida. I think guys, when it comes to DBs in the Pat Narduzzi defense, I think when you look at it, they're going to get talented guys to begin with. But the one thing that I like about what Pitt does in recruiting for the defensive back position, especially corners in general, what their hallmark is, really when you look at guys, Pitt's really got one guy that's really below the 6 foot or the 5'11". That's Pitt star Marquez Williams, a guy who plays like he's 6'1". I think it's a difference between him and what he can do. But the majority of these guys are 6 foot, 6'1". MJ Devonshire is a guy like that. AJ Woods, a 5'11", 6 foot guy. This is going to be another cornerback out of Florida. And I love the recruiting strategy. We talk about, if Pitt misses guys from the WPIAL, if they're looking at different guys. I love how Pitt and Pat Narduzzi has really put a focal point on going to different parts of the country to find the best talent that fits their culture. One of the things that really Pitt has done to an elite level is developed the culture that they want. When coach says it's we, not me, that's a big thing. That's just not something you put on a wall. It's something that they preach and what they say, and it's a brotherhood within those walls down at the South Side in at Acrisure Stadium on Saturdays. So just to give you an idea, Chazin Johnson, who I think is a tremendous player, rated as a 3-star recruit, wrote down some notes here. Just to go over, people want to talk about 4 stars, 3 stars, things of that nature. I'm not too concerned about the stars. I want to see what the offer sheet looks like. Things that I wrote down here. Offer sheet. Florida State, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa State, Louisville, Missouri, Oregon State, South Carolina, and West Virginia. Just some of the major universities that are on this list. Goes to tell you that he does have a great offer sheet. Okay. Anytime you get multiple Power 5 offers from a guy, this is a guy that's going to be able to create length, be able to really get on the ball, especially with the man coverage that Pitt plays, especially in quarters. They're in their face. A guy that's 6'1", has speed, has shown that. I think when you get him in the Pitt system, one of the things I think is going to be really good for him is Archie Collins being able to work with him one-on-one to be able to really put him in a great position with his technique. I think that's one of the biggest things when you look at this team. when they get into the system, some of these guys are able to come in and play right away, but then there's other guys that need that year or 2 years to really learn the technique and the basis of the defense, where guys need to be in certain positions for the defense to work. I think he's one of those guys. Give him a couple of years. This guy in general, I think, will be a good starter down the road, has plenty of potential. If the guy comes in here and works like the majority of these guys do when they come to Pitt, I think that the sky is the limit. I mean, this guy can really play really well, aggressive. That's what you want at the cornerback position. I just think when he gets here, let him have a couple of years to learn the technique to be able to play in college football, especially in the Power Five. I think this guy can be a tremendous athlete, a guy with that kind of just that kind of size. You got like a Jason Pinnock, a guy like that. MJ Devonshire was one of those guys that came in, was able to play right away just because of his athleticism and what he was able to do. Give this guy a couple years, he'll do a hell of a job. The next guy on this list that I have here for me, one, I think by far the ones that announced, okay, there's some other ones that I know that will come along, but in my opinion, this is by far the best commitment by far from the past 2 weekends, okay? So that's going to be Caleb Holmes, the offensive lineman out of Georgia. 6'3", 287. He'll be a guy that plays offensive guard, certainly intelligent enough to play the center position, a guy that loves football, very intelligent. Football, we talk about high football IQ. He's a 4-star offensive guard. Again, 6'3", at a Creekside High School in Fairburn, Georgia. This is a guy that plays with a mean streak. And we talk about a mean streak, and you hear that from a number of different people, especially throughout the media, when they say that. And it's almost like a term that can be used a lot. But in this scenario, I want people to understand that this really applies to this player. Caleb is a guy that loves the point of attack, especially in terms of run blocking. Very, very physical, comes from the same high school as BJ Williams. The other from this past year, a guy that came in, enrolled early, has shown beyond positive signs, a guy that has the high potential to play this year or be in the rotation. That says a lot about a freshman coming in to play offensive line in the Power Five. That's certainly not easy. It's extremely difficult because when you're learning the offense, you have to learn technique, and usually it takes guys a couple years, especially offensive line, to build up the body to be able to deal with the beating that you get every single day in the trenches. This is a guy that plays physical at the point of attack, especially at pass blocking, a guy that's just very light on his feet. You love to see the footwork. I think Dave Borbley's going to have a field day with this guy. I think his footwork's very good already. I think he could play very early if a guy gets hurt, especially in the coming year, or even compete for a position. But the biggest thing is when we look at guys like this, when they come in, what do they do in terms of learning the playbook? What do they do in terms of being able to pick up protections when they're allowing guys to be on the field? How do they adapt to the college football game? But more importantly, the speed of the game. You're looking at the speed of the game now where, guys are in high school and they're the best guy on their team or the best guy in their state. College football is a different world, especially in the Power Five as it is now. But let me tell you, by far, so far, out of the announcements of the past 2 weekends, Caleb Holmes is my favorite. I think he's going to be a star. He's again, I got to talk about, the 4 stars, the 5, the 4 stars, 3 stars, whatever. He is a 4-star. But then again, let's go down just a list here. I wrote here, just a list of schools. Okay. And you look at this and it's extremely impressive. I got written down here: Auburn, Boston College, Cincinnati, East Carolina, Florida State, Georgia Tech, LSU, Louisville, Marshall, Maryland, Mississippi State, Missouri, Oklahoma, UCF, and Memphis. Guys, this is one that Pitt really held off Auburn. I think the majority of people would understand that really is between Pitt and Auburn at this point. It was a one-on-one battle at this point, but I think the relationship with BJ Williams, a guy, he's going to be a stud. They were former teammates. He's able to tell him what it's like to play in the Pitt football system, what the culture's like, being able to, and I think a lot of these players start to see it when they get here, is how well they're taken care of here. That means a lot going forward because you're able to develop those relationships. It's different at some of these schools. They just look at you like a transaction. They're not really looking at you as a person. I think Pitt looks at each and every one of these players as a person, and then being able to develop them, get your academics, get your degree. Pat Narduzzi talks about it all the time. But as a football player, you're going to get a lot of great coaching from a guy like Dave Borbley and putting guys into the National Football League. I think this is a great pickup again. Beyond happy with this one. So that's two of them. That's two of them so far. Got three more here. Oh, another good one here. Again, going back and forth here. I'll be able to go back to the other one here in a second, but I got to go to this one. And that's Nigel Maynard. Okay. This is a guy committed here this past weekend, a 3-star cornerback, 6 foot. Again, we talk about the size, the length. That's so important in this Pitt defense. They love those big corners, physical at the point of attack. Cornerback, 6 foot, 165 pounds out of Tennessee. Again, one of those other states that really Pitt's been moving into. As you see, Pitt's really going south, finding the talent. Again, these guys are, one, physical. Having a guy like this that's physical, has speed, agility. Again, I think this is another guy you get in here for a couple of years. Let Archie Collins work his magic, be able to really work on one-on-one, get the technique down when you play quarters press. You want to be able to have that guy that's there, physical, understanding the points of the defense, where they need to be, how it all works, and really in unison, and why the Pitt defense has been so good. And again, this guy right here, again, looking at the offer sheet here. Let's see what we got here. What did I write down here? Okay, yeah, so Duke, Liberty, Louisville, Memphis, Michigan, Mississippi, Ole Miss, UNLV, Vanderbilt, Virginia Tech, West Virginia, Georgia Tech, and Indiana. And this is a guy that really we held off on Michigan. He had 2 visits really set up, and I think we're coming down to the final 2, and that was the University of Pittsburgh, and then that was Michigan. The fact that he canceled his Michigan visit, it's not going on, especially this coming weekend. It's not going to happen. He's 100% locked into Pitt. Again, I love this kid in terms of potential. We talk about potential, where these guys go. I just think that, when you look at the body of work that Archie Collins was able to provide, and you look at a guy like this where they have, again, speed, physicality, being able to play quarters press, you're up on a guy, being able to have your leverage, but then learning the technique of how they want them to play in this defense to be so successful. And that's why the cornerbacks, especially DBs in general, whether it's safety or corner in the Pat Narduzzi defense, you're coming to Pitt, you're going to learn the right way to play. And more than likely, if you do what you're supposed to do and work your tail off, you're going to go to the National Football League. So, again, another great player. And it's going to lead me to my next guy here. Again, I love what they're doing in terms of the recruitment here, and especially the offensive line. Okay. You look at guys from where they come from, the certain areas they come from, but also the schools they come from and the powerhouses that Pitt is currently recruiting. And right here, the next one I got on my list here is Mason Lindsay, offensive tackle, 6'5", 300 pounds out of DeMatha Catholic in Hyattville, Maryland. Guys, again, John Morgan, a guy like that. John Morgan came from DeMatha Catholic. Judson Tallendier, even when he played, he transferred from Pitt to get just a little bit more playing time, but he was a guy that was certainly very good out of DeMatha Catholic. Jaden Bradley came from DeMatha Catholic. This is another guy that really just in the size on this man is ridiculous. I love the way he plays. Again, the mass on this guy. He's obviously a 3-star recruit. I personally think he's a little underrated for what he is, for what he's done in his body of work. I think his footwork is very good. I think he's very agile. Again, very good in run blocking. I think the pass blocking is because high school is a little bit different. He might not pass as much. But again, the footwork, the technique, things of that nature will be able to work for Mason. I think his potential whenever he gets here is going to be through the roof again. This is a guy that, one, understands the game, loves football, and you're going to hear me say this over and over again, how much they love football. And that's kind of the mindset of what Pitt's looking at for a lot of these guys. They want guys who love the game, want to be a part of a team and a culture. Okay, these guys really fit what Pitt wants to do. And this is a guy that I think will be coming in here, give him 2 or 3 years, especially in terms of technique, learning the offense. This is a guy from DeMatha Catholic, a powerhouse in Maryland. We've got plenty of good success out of that high school. This is a guy that'll do really well. And again, just to show you again, everyone's out there saying, well, Pitt's getting 3 stars, 3 stars. Let's take a look at the offer sheet here. We got Boston College. We got Maryland's, USF, Virginia Tech, West Virginia, Connecticut, Duke, Wake Forest, Ole Miss. Let's see here. Mississippi State. And where's the other one here I have? Okay, he did have an unofficial to Texas A&M. So again, the offer sheet says what it needs to say. And that when you have this many Power Five offers and people are looking at you to play, that's a big, big deal. And I think Pitt's done a great job of finding talent because it's clear when Pitt offers a guy, all of a sudden everybody else just comes flushing in. Okay. And then you'll hear about me talk about this before, but Pitt's going to have to go into babysitting mode because they're going to have to be able to watch these guys because more and more guys are coming to look at these players and they're going to certainly try to get them to decommit and go to another school. We'll talk about that towards the end. But again, Mason Lindsay, a guy, I just think he is such a force in the run blocking game. I think pass protection will be able to work with him a little bit. Dave Borley will do a great job. Give him 2 to 3 years again in the weight room. I know he's 300 pounds, but you can add some more muscle onto him. But obviously, too, when you get a little bit bigger, you want to be able to work that technique in your footwork. I think he'll do a great job. I think he's got so much potential. Allow him to develop, stay patient, and a guy that can be very productive if he continues to work his tail off like I know he will, and he's done so far. And then one more here, just because of one, I love this commitment too. And actually, two more I got on my list here. Davian Pritchard, okay, another cornerback. I think just some of these guys will be interchangeable between safety. They can't play corner; they'll move to safety. That's what Pitt really does. I think they do a great job about that. But again, cornerback, 6'1", another guy, 165 pounds. Be able to put him into the ACC where you got Coach Stack, one of the best in terms of being able to put on mass with a lot of these players. Get him in the weight room, a 3-star recruit out of Youngstown, Ohio. Again, just tough. I love guys out of Youngstown, Ohio. I love guys on the eastern part of Ohio because they're tough guys over there. I kind of count them as Pittsburgh guys, especially when it comes to cold weather, just being tough, gritty. That's what you love to see from these guys. I think that this guy has the size. He does have the speed, but this is going to be one of those where you want to work with him for 2 or 3 years. Be able to put him in the system, see what he looks like going forward, work with him on technique. If he can't play corner, move him to safety. Corey Sanders will certainly work his magic. A guy like Corey Sanders who has been tremendous in terms of developing talent, especially at the safety position. You know, you got Brandon Hill, just as as an example, Brandon Hill from when he came in, being able to work with him. Eric Hallett, a guy from where he started to where he went. I just think in general, you got a lot of talent back there. Obviously, when previously, even though he's been a pain in the tail recently, Paris Ford, another guy that Corey Sanders worked a lot of magic for. I think just in general, Pitt's had a lot of talented guys. DeMar Hamlin, of course. Just the list goes on and on and on. I mean, those are really just 4 guys off the top of my head that have been phenomenal players. Okay, and I think this year, especially going forward, when I do a video on the breakdown of what the defense and the depth chart will look like, you're going to see that there's plenty of talent on this team, but there's depth. And I think that's a major, major thing. Davian Pritchard, I think he can be a really good corner, but if it doesn't work out, he can certainly go to the free safety position, or even he can play the boundary. It doesn't matter. I think he can be that kind of guy, depending upon what his skill set is when he gets here, when you put him in this defense to see what his strengths and his weaknesses are. And just to show his offer sheet here, Boston College, Bowling Green, Buffalo, Eastern Michigan, Maryland, Temple, Western Michigan, Illinois, Minnesota, and I had one more here. Where was it here? Oh, Kentucky. So again, got some Big Ten offers in there, got an SEC offer in there. I think that kind of stuff means a lot. Again, another guy, I think that this is a guy that personally me, I think has a high ceiling. Just need to work with him a little bit. I think he'll be a tremendous athlete in general. And when he learns the system, comes in, sees the speed of the college game, playing again, quarters press, we'll see how it works. I think he's got a high ceiling, but we'll see. Everything always adjusts between high school to college and where these guys learn, especially on the defensive side of the football. And last but not least, I think this is a very interesting player for me. I loved it. Again, I love the players. Florida, I think when you look at some of these guys, Florida is just so talented in terms of the depth and in the actual schools in there. But then we talk about schools. I talked about the Matha Catholic up in Maryland. St. Thomas Aquinas in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Trust me, guys, I've been down there. It's a Division I Power 5 factory down there. They've got tremendous coaches down there. Obviously Jason Taylor used to coach there before he went to the University of Miami to coach. Obviously, Chris Carter, the former, obviously the Hall of Fame wide receiver from the Minnesota Vikings, he's down there. They just got a really good staff down there. And again, a guy, he's a 3-star. Again, we look at corner or safety, 6'1", 170 pounds. Put him in the weight room again. A guy that can add weight, good weight, lean weight, because he's got that big length, big body. He's a guy that can add on that extra muscle, to add on extra pounds. Again, 3-star. But then again, St. Thomas Aquinas, so you can bet your dollar he's going to have a good offer sheet. Of course, as we go on the list here, I got here, this is beautiful. Wisconsin, Illinois, Florida, Duke, West Virginia, Memphis, Louisville, Pitt, obviously Cincinnati, and Charlotte. So you look at the list on there too. Again, SEC, you had SEC schools in there. You got Big 12 schools in there. Again, another guy that's talented. But again, he's a highly sought after guy. He might only be considered a 3-star, but he's from a powerhouse in Southern Florida. St. Thomas Aquinas has put out plenty of different guys. We have Daniel Carter up here. He's done a good job. When you look at the potential and you go through the list of St. Thomas Aquinas guys that have come here, or even in general, just around the college football landscape, I mean, they're going to Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, Ohio State. I mean, that's really where a lot of these guys go. So when you're able to grab one of these guys who have the potential, whether they're not a 4-star, and even some of those larger schools take these 3-stars because they know what type of talent they are. They're looking at the tape. Okay, I understand what the ratings say, and we'll go into a little bit about that here just a little bit later. But you got to look at the tape. You got to see, does this guy fit your system? When you're playing a quarters press, you got to have these big corners. You want guys that are aggressive. They're not going to be pushed around. You want the physicality every day in and day out, every single play. So I think it's so important. I love Pitt's strategic plan here. Being able to go after bigger cornerbacks, bigger safeties, and especially some of these guys that say, if some of them are really physical and you're dealing with the number aspect, bring them down. They can play the star positions. Guess what? They're going to be in cover and space, and they're certainly big enough that they can lay the wood. I think in general, that's just what it looks like. And personally, I love this strategy. I think they've done a great job of getting the bigger corners. I love it. Plenty of guys, especially in Pitt's terms, gone to the NFL. That's what you want to see. So those are the guys that I have here so far. Okay. And those really, 5, 6, 7 guys that I mentioned there, just from the previous weekend too. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 guys there. Mentioned 6 guys. I love what Pitt's doing. Okay. And guys, there's some guys on this list that I know that have committed. They haven't announced yet officially. When it does come out, you guys are going to love it because they're tremendous players. I think it's going to be a huge home run when you see some of these other names that come out, but along with these ones. This, in my opinion, will be Pat Narduzzi's best class. And, I got some comments today on Twitter saying, well, if you look at the average star rating, it's really the same from the previous couple of years. Is that a bad thing? Last couple of years, 2021, we won an ACC championship game, won 11 games. This past year, even with bad quarterback play, we won 9 games. We were missing 11 starters in the bowl game against number 18 UCLA. Pitt won that game. Pitt scored over 35 points in that game. I think when you look at this team and how it's constructed, what their goals are, what they're looking for, some of these guys you're going to see they're going to get bumped up because of how good of athletes they are. Okay. And again, I'm a guy that I look at the offer sheets. I think that the ratings are important to a degree. I understand where people are coming from, but you have to look at the offer sheet and you have to look at the tape. I think in previous years, there are some guys that Pitt's, certainly missed on. The guys that haven't played or on the depth chart, they've transferred. And I think there's one thing that Pitt's done really, really well in the past 4 to 5, 6 years is the guys that really only transfer out of here are guys that really weren't playing. And they're looking for an opportunity to be able to hit the field and play more and get more playing time. And I think that's commendable. And I think Pitt's done a good job of helping those guys find different places to go. I just think that when you see a lot of these guys, especially towards the end of the year, you're going to see them jump up. Right now, obviously, Pitt's ranked 9th in the country in terms of actual recruiting, team recruiting rankings on the rival site. Obviously, guys, that's going to drop because obviously it's about volume right now. They're not showing 21 commitments. Obviously, they're only showing 17 because the 17 are the only ones that have officially committed because they've actually put the announcement out there. but it's about volume right now. And I think that's why they're just so up there. That's why they're so high right now. But there has to be a conversation. And, and I hear it from the media. Well, Pitt's not going to get these guys. Pitt's not going to get these guys. I think we need to understand that there's more. There is better talent coming each year. Okay. And there's certain guys that fit this system. When you look at this team and you look at overall how well Pitt has done in terms of wins, especially wins these past 2 years, we always hit on it. 20 wins in the last 2 years, ACC championship game, a bowl game victory, a New Year's Six bowl. That's a huge thing in terms of being able to build and continue to build the brand of what Pitt is. Tough, physical. Guys, when you face this team, it's always going to be from these ACC teams or even the SEC teams. Tennessee even talked about it. Tough. You were in a dogfight. Their bodies feel it, everything. What I can tell you is this. When you look at this team, I love what they're doing in terms of the guys they're looking for. There's a certain attitude. There's a certain physicality. There's a certain agility. They know what fits their system. Okay. And I think that this group has really been a real bright spot in terms of where this program's going. I think that it's not going to be talked about enough. I think that the media, obviously, one of the things I heard today, of course, well, it's a big number. They have 17 commitments. There are other schools up there, especially if I look it up here, if we really go into the team aspects of it, I'll even use rivals. Let's see here, 2024. We go into team rankings here. It pops up. Okay. So currently right now, okay, Pitt's sitting, drop to it's at 9 right now. They have 17 commitments on the board. At number 1 right now, obviously, is going to be Georgia. They've got 18 commitments. Michigan at number 2, they have 19 commitments. Notre Dame at number 3, 19 commitments. LSU, number 4, 16 commitments. Oregon, number 5, 16 commitments. Ohio State at number 6 with 14 commitments. Penn State, sitting at number 7, has 17 commitments. Okay, so right now where Pitt's at number 9, only 2 spots back, has the same amount of commitments as Penn State, is only 2 spots back. So I understand what people are saying. And in terms, next one, number 10, Wisconsin has 14. North Carolina is number 11. They have 16 commitments. Florida State has 11 commitments at 12. Some of these schools actually have a high number of guys and a high number of commitments already. I think we need to give a little bit of, some kudos to Pitt. How many years ago did Pitt not have maybe, they only had like 2 or 3 commitments by the time June came. By the time June came, Pitt had 11 commitments. The progress each year, you can see it that really Pitt's making that adjustment. Pitt's building the brand that it wants to build. Pitt's not going to go anywhere. And we'll do a lot of talking about some of the players that are going to be starting this year for Pitt, but they've got guys in here for a reason that are going to play really well. And I think Pitt has tremendous coaching. Pick 6 Previews, which is on Twitter, our Twitter account that you guys ought to follow, had a conversation with Pat Narduzzi, and one of the things they talked about was just being, again, finishing ranked for 2 consecutive years, being a top 20 defense for the past 5 seasons, being in the top 3 in sacks for 6 consecutive seasons. I mean, these numbers are what they are for a reason, because they're developing the players. I always joke around, people say, well, Pitt's not getting these certain guys. Pitt's not getting this guy. Oh, they missed on this guy. In my opinion, people really need to understand that Pitt knows what they're looking for. There's certainly guys they've missed on that they would love to get. There's positions like, for instance, tight end that has not gone very well. Certainly a lot of misses, but then there has been some bright spots. Gavin Bartholomew, Carter Johnson, guys like that. Lucas Krull from the transfer portal. I think that this staff needs a lot of, how do I put it? A lot of kudos. They're doing a good job. They understand what they're looking for and the culture in general of what they want. It's the greatest thing when you know exactly what you're looking for, the type of person, the type of character, the type of athlete, what you're looking for. Again, I don't think Carlos Zovko gets enough recognition. That guy works his tail off day in and day out. I mean, talk about being around guys that are committing all the time. He's a guy that's recruiting consistently, putting in the time. He's not just there from a certain time period. He's there extra hours, being able to call recruits, talking to recruits. He's a legend in terms of being able to see different guys and looking at the tape. When you have a stud like that, even in the rest of the department, Ed Warner that's down there, he's an incredible analyst that just came in this year. He's going to be a major upgrade. You just look at this staff in general from just construction purposes. They've done a good job, and they have a great number of guys on the coaching staff and in the backside where you have the recruiting side. The back office, as I call it. These guys work day in, day out, watching the tape, and they're being able to recruit guys that they know that fit the system and the guys that work their tail off. There has to be some type of recognition for that. So again, guys, I really like this class so far. This, in my opinion, I think will be the highest rated Pat Narduzzi class that we've seen so far. It's because of the on-field success. It's because of the constant development. When you have all of these examples, I mean, look at every position in general. When you're able to point to a certain position when you're recruiting a guy and saying, look, you come here, you play here, you work your tail off, you're not given anything, you earn everything. Look at these guys from every single position, whether it's defensive line, linebacker, defensive back, offensive line, quarterback, wide receiver, running back. Doesn't matter. Look how we develop our players here. Look at how well we develop, but also we take care of our guys here. You're not just a number when you come here. We take care of you. There's a reason why you committed here, because you're not just a number. You're going to get a great academic education. You're going to be able to be at a great university, a great alumni. But more importantly, we're going to take care of you. That means a lot, guys. And relationships go so far. Relationships mean everything, okay? And I think right now, where we're sitting at in June with 21 commitments, you'll see the more of them come out here later on. But the fact is, though, now Pitt's going to be recruiting the commitments that they have so far. These 21 guys, they're going to be recruiting for the next 6 months to make sure, because, guys, if we've learned anything, there are going to be other schools that come and try to get decommitments from these guys. It's very well known that Pitt knows the talent that they want. Pitt understands that they look at the tape and they know talent. It might be a while for these other schools to see that, because they just look at the star ratings and then they wonder why there's so many busts or certain players don't work out because it just doesn't fit their scheme or it doesn't fit their culture. These guys are tremendous athletes, but also great high character guys. And I think that Pitt's just done a great job. And now the job is, at this point, is to keep the class together. Constant communication, constant recruiting, talking about building that relationship to where it is now. It's great right now. It's right here, which is great. Let's up it a little bit. Let's keep climbing, because now the more and more you have these relationships and you care about these players, because these coaches do. It's not just something that they say. It's actually something that they do. It's going to be incredible to watch this from a perspective of where these guys go. And I think that just if you look at Pitt, you got to be happy. What were the chances that you would think, 5, 6 years, I should really say more than that, I would actually say probably towards the end of the Paul Chryst era. You look at the end of the Paul Chryst era and the first, 3 or 4 years of Narduzzi, you saw a plan, but did you really think you were even going to reach this? Now we're talking about competing for ACC championships year in and year out. If we had average quarterback play last year and just a cohesiveness on offense, you're probably looking at a 10-win team again. And being that one game away from going to the ACC championship game again. It's just consistent building. It's consistent recruiting. It's consistent tape watching, where you're watching these guys consecutively, watching the tape, understanding the athlete, not just the star rankings, not just looking up a website and saying, okay, what is this coach saying? What's that coach saying? Trusting your eyes. These coaches trust their eyes. They know football. They know the player that's going to fit in their scheme. They know the high character guys that they want. There's a certain person that they want, and it's working. And clearly it's working, because the last 3 years have been great. So, guys, again, thank you for tuning in tonight. Again, I know it's been a while since I've been on. I've been so busy. But again, I love the constant communication with you guys. I love the constant questions. I love the comments and sharing the site, but also too you guys subscribing and the way the channel's growing has been incredible. So again, thank you guys for everything that you guys do and supporting the channel. Cannot thank you guys enough. Again, Pitt's doing a hell of a job. Let's see the June commitments still continue, even with 21 commitments, or is there some more transfer portal commitments coming here in the recent coming weeks? We'll see. We'll see what happens. But again, thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night. And as always and forever, hail to Pitt. I'll see you guys.